Hey guys, I'm back. I just put out a video a little bit ago on how to set up this immersion RC 5.8 gigahertz 600 milliwatt transmitter for FPV, how to wire it into a RunCam Swift 2. And apparently guys who've seen the video liked it and asked for some more information on actually how to set up the frequencies on the transmitter and how to get it to communicate with the receiver I've got, which is also from Ready Made RC. So that's what this video is going to be about. The back side of this transmitter, the bottom left corner, you see four little switches there. The yellow switches on that orange plate. Those switches are called dip switch, or at least I call them dip switches. And depending on which position you have them switches in, either up or down, is to what frequency you set your transmitter at. Apparently right now they look like they're all up. So if I go to the back of the packaging for this transmitter and look at the frequency database here for it, well, I thought I knew where it was. Okay, here we go. So if you look at race band right there, channel 1, 56, 58 megahertz, you see all the switches are in the up position for that frequency. So that tells me that's the frequency my transmitter is currently setting at. So what I'm going to want to do on my receiver is set my receiver to that channel. And if you go to the receiver's owner's manual, which I'll put a print or a copy of that on in this video so you can see it, all I got to do is go to that database and find out what band and what channel combination do I need to set the receiver to get 56, 58. Now, instead of hunting that frequency, and I'll show you this in the receiver's database there for frequencies, what I'll do is I'll go to the receiver and pick a frequency I want to use and then find it on here and set my switches according to the receiver's frequency. And do that because other guys I fly with may be on the same frequency. So I try to find out, first of all, who's using what frequencies, and then try to set a frequency that's not being used. If this frequency that it's currently set to, 56, 58, is not being used and will work for me, I'll not change anything, I'll leave it. And the reason why is this transmitter here, on the back of it, the dip switches are covered with a little plastic membrane, and there's a little bit of like a little oil-filled cell under that membrane. If you break that membrane, that oil or whatever kind of lubricants in there, will dry up and maybe not let your switches work properly or whatever. So if at all possible and you could use the frequency with all switches up, I would do that. However, it's not a big deal because the transmitter I'm going to show you how it's set up, I don't want to wire this one up. It's brand new. I'm just using it as a spare, so I'm not going to wire this one up. But the transmitter I'm going to show you in the video that I'll be working from, it actually has that membrane broken, and I've got my switches set to a particular frequency. So either way, I prefer not to break it if I don't have to, but if you have to, then go for it. It's perfectly fine, and your video transmitter will still work. Okay, here we go. I've got everything disconnected and unwired from my monitor here. There's the tripod. I'll show you that in a minute. Anyway, on the basic setup, you've got a video receiver, a monitor, which my monitor is there on my tripod, and then a battery to power it. So we're going to start with the battery first. I'm using a 3S 1500 battery. You can use a 1300. I've got probably 3 15, 20-minute flights on a 1300, 3S 1300. and still had enough power for another flight or so. That's powering the transmitter and the monitor, so you don't need a huge capacity battery. However, I don't feel comfortable using a 2-cell. Plus, I've got a bunch of 1500s I use, so either 1300 or 1500 will work. So from your battery, in my other video, I talked about this connector here. I use them for several things. It's got a balance lead, female balance lead on one end that fits a 3S battery. The other end is a it's a male JST plug. And then from there, I want to split this power and have it go to power my monitor and go to power my transmitter. So what I'm using, and this was on a post I put on Tired Iron's page of a list of handy little connectors and wires and harnesses that I like to keep on hand. This is a Y adapter, JST Y adapter. It's got a female end, single female end here for the male JST plug to go into from the battery. And then on the other end, it's got two male JST plugs. And then from there, I've got a JST female plug that is soldered into this barrel connector that goes to my monitor. This will come with your monitor. Okay, and then same thing goes for your video transmitter here. You've got another barrel connector, and these are standard 2.1 millimeter barrel connectors. And you can actually buy these, and that, again, that's on that list I posted on Tired Iron's page. You can actually buy these connectors with the JST plug already on it. This has tape around it just to give me a hold on whenever I used to unplug and plug it a lot, so I didn't want to pull the wires out of the plug. So that's basically all you've got is your battery, your short balance lead and male JST connector here, a Y harness that has the single end female, the dual ends male, and then your barrel connector with a female JST plug on this end, and then your power cable for your monitor wired to a female JST plug on that end. So what I'm going to do, well, let me go ahead and show you this first. The end of this transmitter, you see it's got audio, video 1 and 2. You could use either one of those. The signal will still come out and go to the monitor. You just got to set your monitor for either AV1 or AV2. And then your power connector there. The GS link, ground station link, I don't use that. I'm just using audio, video 1 and power. That power plug right into the power port. That plugs into the monitor. And then for the video signal, I plug this into audio video 1. And it's going, the other end of it's right here. It's got a red video RCA connector. And I can plug that right into my monitor. However, I've got this extension cable on here that's plugged into the other end of a harness that goes into my monitor. So it's just a series of extension cables and harnesses. But as long as you use a video, RCA video harness, either directly into your monitor or through the custom harness that comes with the monitor. And again, this one come with all of this, so I didn't have to buy anything. However, it depends on how your monitor's set up. The gist of it is, this is how you get your video into your monitor. Plugging it in here and then routing it to the video in on your monitor. And then setting your input on your monitor to whatever channel you happen to be using. Now, one thing I'll say, I've got my antenna mounted directly to the receiver. The instructions tell you that it's the preferred mounting method, rather than leaving my receiver down at my monitor and then running a harnessed up to the top of my tripod leg here, going up 12 feet. and then attaching my antenna there. They say it's not as, you won't get as strong a signal if you attach an antenna to a long extension like that one there. They would rather you mount the receiver high and then use an extension just to let your video signal travel to your monitor, rather than your signal from your plane traveling that same distance to your receiver. So that's why I mount my receiver and antenna high up on my tripod. That's pretty much it right there. I'm going to power this thing up, and then I'm going to show you how to set up the receiver. Okay, on my tripod, I've got a broken leg off of a tripod here, and I like it because it's telescopic and it stores down nice and easy. I took a piece of PVC pipe and mounted it right there to the handle of my tripod. That way the leg of the broken tripod, which is this, was set right down in it. And then I made a little piece here out of PVC pipe with a metal band going around it. That way this sets down in here like this. And the reason I did it like that so I can turn it is this is my poor man's antenna tracker. I like to have an antenna tracker, but again, that's just another piece in the whole FPV link that is prone to failure. And if that happens, you know, I'll lose my video signal, or worse, maybe lose my plane. So when I'm flying with a directional antenna, I'm generally flying out one direction. And if I get out to my max limit and I want to explore over to the left or right of my center line, then I can do that by just simply turning the antenna left or right. Other than that, I'm not really worried about keeping my antenna pointed exactly at my plane at all times. If I do long range with maybe the 1.28 frequency, maybe I'll get something like that. But for this, I like to keep it simple. This is my battery holder here. Again, it's a piece of PVC mounted and secured to the top of here, and it's just the right diameter to set a battery into, like that. That way, I used to have my battery velcroed to the post here, but if someone comes along and bumps it, they could easily knock it off. So right here, the only way to really get the battery to fall out is get my tripod knocked over. And if that happens, I've got bigger trouble. And this, let's say, telescopes way up to, I don't know, I'll probably get at least 8 feet out of it anyway. And I do get a better signal. I used to have my receiver mounted here, and then my tripod, it's not fully extended yet. It's a little bit low, but my tripod would, or my monitor and receiver mounted here would be maybe 6 feet up, about eye level to me. So, and I did notice a difference when I raised the receiver, mounted it here and raised it up higher. I definitely get better reception. All right, you see I have my receiver installed back on the tripod. There's my video harness onto the video in on the monitor. And then there's my power harness. It's going down to the Y lead, and you can see it goes into the power end of the monitor. So those two devices are just waiting to be powered with the battery. So I'll hook up the battery and we'll get going. One thing I can't set this while I'm videotaping because I don't have a tripod to hold my camera. However, I'll tell you, first thing I'm going to do when I power this up, it's just going to be in a single band mode, meaning when I select my band switch right here, no matter how many times I push it, it's just going to beep once, meaning it's in band 1. If I want to unlock all the frequencies that this thing's capable of receiving, I have to hold the band and channel button down together and then power the receiver up. When that happens, I'll get 10 beeps rapidly in a row. That tells me I've opened up the extra frequencies on this receiver. I don't know, I can't remember how this thing come, if it had just the single band activated and I opened up the rest of them or what, but through the instructions I was reading on that, I learned that's how you open up the extra frequencies. So if you power yours up and when you push the band frequency, it only beeps once. That's because you don't have the other frequencies opened up. Now, if I want to close the frequencies back up, I will hold these two buttons down, power it up again, and it will beep 5 times rapidly. That would tell me that I'm back to the single band mode. Okay, I've got the receiver powered up. I'll push the band button. It beeps once. There should be 4 bands activated on this thing if all the channels are open. Each time I push it, it just beeps once, meaning only 8 bands are open, or 8 channels are open on one band. Each band has 8 channels. And then the channel button you can push and it will beep as many times as the channel it's on. There's channel 1, 2, 3, and it goes all the way to 8. And then back around to channel 1. And that's how you navigate by band and channel to find the frequency that your video transmitter's broadcasting. I'm going to go ahead and power down and open up the rest of the bands and show you what that looks like or sounds like. Okay, I have it powered back up and I've got all my bands opened up. I know that by holding the 2 buttons down, powering it up, I got 10 rapid beeps from my receiver here. So now I'm going to push the band button. There's channel 2. It powers up in band 1. There's 2. Or I'm sorry, band 3. Band 4. Back to band 1. Whatever I set this to and depower, when I power back up, it would stay. And I still have my 8 channels to select from. And that allows me to navigate through all 4 bands and 8 channels per band to find the frequency I want to use that matches my video transmitter. Something I did notice on my video transmitter, with all the dip switches set up, that frequency is 5658. However, I don't see a frequency 5658 on the band chart for this receiver. However, I do know if I set it to band 1, channel 1, or band 3, channel 1, it will still receive a signal. So I guess when I set this up initially through process elimination, I went band by band and channel by channel until I found my video signal that worked. I do know I have one of my receivers that may be on my Bixler set up to where the frequency actually matches what band and channel I have it set to, but for some reason on my Hawksky it doesn't. So if you set your frequency dip switches, or actually I would just leave them alone, not even cut that membrane on the back of it, and then power up your receiver and just go band 1, channels 1 through 8, band 2, channels 1 through 8, and so on until you find which frequency is going to broadcast on your monitor, and then just leave it that. That keeps it simple. I'm not an expert at all of this. Some of this is trial and error for me, but that's how it works for me. Something else about this receiver, when you power it up, it'll tell you, it'll just verify the cell of battery you're using. There's 3 beeps. I'm using a 3-cell battery. And you can also set this receiver for low voltage warning. I don't mess around with that. It's easy to set. Read the instruction. They'll show you how to set it. I'm not going to get into that. However, just to play it safe, I've got 3 flights on one 1300 battery before. And like I said, they were 15, 20-minute flights. And I still had power left over. However, I make it a rule of thumb. If I'm going to FPV long distance, I'll use 1 battery per flight. I've got extra batteries, and that way I never have to worry about running low on power. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and here's my video transmitter. Got it hooked up to the camera with my servo extension here. The other end here. And this was in my previous video. I'll power the transmitter on. Usually you want airflow across these transmitters, but this one I can leave it on for a couple minutes without damaging anything and it'll be fine. I assume I'm powered up. I don't see a light on. Maybe that light got broke whenever I had my crash. Anyway, that's powered up. My transmitter's powered up. I'm going to cut my monitor on. I'm going to start with band 2, 3, 4, back to 1. Okay, there we go. What I did is just cycle through the bands. And again, I would start with band 1 and just there's channel 2, channel 3, and just cycle through until you find once you go through all 8 channels, if you're not getting anything, go to band 2 and then go through the channels again. And sometimes you'll get a stray signal that will bring up a picture. I check all bands, all frequencies to find the best picture. Sometimes you'll get a broken signal. I do know I can go to band 3, channel 1, and get a signal as well right there. So I'm on channel 1, band 3. There's band 4. There's band 1. So I do know band 1 and band 3, channel 1, I get my signal on my Hawk Sky. So it's kind of just a process of elimination.